Hey guys, so in this video, let's talk about Sentinel. I have done the kit analysis for Sentinel, but because the time there wasn't the full number, so there was probably some inaccuracy in what I was saying. So in this video, I want to explain about her kit and to talk about her team comms and basically her gameplay. So first of all, to understand her kit, we got to understand her skill 2, which is Night Watch. So Night Watch is a self-channel skill, and she will enter this channeling, which is called Hour of Repentance, and she will grant herself Dread Bullets. Alright, so what is Dread Bullet? If you look at to the bottom right, Dread Bullet is when you are attacking, okay, it deals 75% extra damage, which is killed with 20% of Sentinel's max HP. So usually attack is calculated based on attack stats, but this is based on 20% of the max HP. So if your max HP is 10,000, so it is basically taking that 20%, which is 2,000, and then become the multiplier for damage. For context, your attack stat is also usually about 1,800 to 2,100, right? So in that range. So 20% of max HP, especially with Sentinel who are able to increase their own max HP, and it's usually when you put it in the HP reduction team that all has max HP increase, her HP is about 20,000, okay? So overall, this extra 75% damage could actually hit really hard. And when she attacks, it consumes 1 stacks, okay? So if she does 6 attacks, all the Dread Bullet will be used up, and then she will come out from Hour of Repentance status. The thing is that when she's in Hour of Repentance, she will gain 2 stacks of lock-on every round, and when she's in this status, lock-on status, she will do a follow-up attack every time the enemy moves. Okay, so it's something like J, okay, but Sentinel doesn't need the enemy to actually attack you. As long as they act, Sentinel will attack. And even if they don't do anything, as long as Sentinel has locked on, at the start of the round, I'm not mistaken, or at the end of the round, either one, she will then use up all the lock on and attack with the follow-up attack. And the stack that she gets is 2. So basically, regardless of condition, she will do 2 follow-up attack in total, rather if the enemy act or at the end she just release all of it, but only maximum 2 attacks. And the attack that she does is actually her S1, which is Expiation, and Expiation triggered this way will have an additional 10% multiplier of Retribution. But what is Retribution? So I will explain that when I'm talking about her skill 1. But one more thing regarding this skill 2 is that when you use it, she will consume 1 blood type. Only 1, right? You can have like 20, 30, 40 blood type, but she only consumes 1 of it. So if you are wondering how would that impact Nautika's team, not a lot at all. You can get way more blood type, in 1 round, but she only consumes 1, so it's not a big deal. And she will grant the character in front of her the same quantity of bullets she gave herself, so 6, 9, or 15 stacks. So this bullet is really strong because there's also crit, which is in her insight. It's not mentioned in her skill 2, but it's actually in her insight. So you want to maintain the bullets on the DPS in front of her and herself. So in this case, you want to stack up bullets. So you would want to use S2 frequent as you feel that you are comfortable having all the bullets, and the bullets will not suddenly deplete when you are doing all the attacks. Okay, as long as you're comfortable with that, you are fine. So in that case, if you are stacking on the bullet stacks, you also do not need to worry that you will come out from the channeling status because you will always have bullets. Now, for skill 1, Expiation, it is single target attack, but this attack is considered Retribution. So Retribution, its damage is also skill based on 20% max HP. Alright, and if you trigger this as a follow-up attack, as I mentioned, then it's 30% of max HP instead of 20%. So that's what it meant by the additional 10% for retribution. One more thing here is that there's another buff that she gets when she uses expiation. Rather is it follow-up or rather she is actively casting, she will get stacks of fresh wound. Okay, so again, what is fresh wound? At the start of the turn, if you have fresh wound, you will lose HP. So losing HP is not a bad thing for a blood tie team because you charge up blood tie. And then the blood tie that you gain from the loss of HP this way is increased by 50%. And the maximum fresh wound that you can inflict on the enemy is 20 stacks. So the fresh wound stack is actually important to maximize the damage for her ultimate. So our ultimate is 300% relative damage, and again it's considered as retribution, which means 20% is it is based on max HP. The damage is skilled based on max HP. And one thing interesting is that this ultimate will not count towards spell dock, so even though your spell dock is full, you will still get the ultimate. And for each stack of fresh wound, where you can have 20 stack maximum, it will increase the multiplier of retribution by 2% per stacks. So 10 stacks, 20%. 20 stack, 40%. And including the base one, which is 20%. So total, you will scale based on 60% of max HP, which is pretty high. And after using the ultimate, she will consume all fresh wound stacks to heal 5% lost HP per stacks. Again, 10 stacks, 50%, 20 stacks, 100%. So if it's possible, stack up fresh wound to 20 stacks and then use her ultimate. For her insight, when an ally loses HP, gain blood tie, and when any ally have dread bullets, including herself, crit rate increased by 30%. And when any ally's attack triggered dread bullets, increase the damage bonus equals to 0.25 of the ally's max HP. So assuming if your unit has 20,000 max HP, they get 50% damage bonus. And if you have more, then you get more damage bonus. Okay, and 80% of overflowing crit will be converted to crit damage. Alright, so actually it's a very massive buff for herself and for the character in front of her. And for Insight 3, when an attack triggers a bullet, there's a 50% chance to trigger a following effect, which is either she will increase Moxie by 1 if she has less than 5 Moxie. So once she gets full Moxie, then she will gain fresh wound. So basically this allowed you to quickly charge it up all the way to 20, then you can use the ultimate. Okay, if you want to maximize the ultimate's damage. As for her portrait, when an ally has Dread Bullet, increase crit rate by 40%, and the damage bonus is increased to 0.3 instead of 0.25. So I think that would be about 60% if your HP is at 20,000. Okay, and then 100% overflowing crit rate to crit damage. So actually this pretty massive damage improvement for herself and the ally in front. P2 increases the bullet that she contributes. So I can tell you if you are using the bullet on a follow-up attack unit, it will deplete really quickly. So P2 is actually pretty good because you are allowed to give more bullet stacks, so you don't have to use your S2 frequently. Okay, and you also get 3 stack of lock-on, which is also really good because which means more chance for her to get Moxie, which then leads to faster charging of fresh wound and then using her ultimate. So it makes her rotation overall become faster if you have P2. P3 more damage on S1 and also deal more damage. P4 ultimate deal more damage. And finally P5 when an ally have Dread Bullet, increase crit rate by 60% and then increase damage bonus 0.4, which is again at 20,000 HP that would be 80%. Yep, 80% damage bonus and 100% overflowing crit rate turns to crit damage, which is the same as P1. So yeah, more damage. Okay, so if you want faster rotation, it will be P2, but because her gameplay actually you go into channeling status, then you just wait until her ultimate, and she actually should function more as a sub DPS. Yeah, so you don't really need her to be rotating that fast. If she's just rotating faster, it just equals to more damage. Okay, so her portrait is actually just to increase her damage and her capability to boost the character in front and herself, those that has her bullets. But other than that, in terms of how she is played, you don't need to get her portraits. So for rotation, as I mentioned, you use S2, then you start channeling, you give bullet to the main DPS in front and herself, and then from there, you will auto cast S1 maximum twice per round, and during the whole time that you are doing the follow-up attack, auto cast and all those things, you will have chance to gain Moxie. So if you do not gain 5 Moxie by then or your bullet depletes, you would want to use S2 because the bullet does deplete quite quickly, so you will use S2 at least every 2 turns or every 3 turns. So eventually you get your ultimate. Once you get your ultimate, check your fresh wound stack. If your fresh wound stack is very close to 20, then wait a little bit more for it to hit 20 stacks, and then you use your ultimate. So for team comp, she's a blood tie unit. She's a sub DPS, so she's actually Nautika team supporting Nautika. So Nautika can get pretty a lot of buff from the bullet, but the extra damage due to the bullet, Nautika cannot trigger that during her ultimate. When Nautika is using her ultimate, she cannot trigger the extra damage. Okay, but her follow-up attack, everything that Nautika does will be able to include the extra damage from Dread Bullet. Okay, and if it's from the Chinese version, they did some calculation. It seems like Sentinel is carrying the best in slot for Nautica, but that is the last I checked, which is right after Sentinel's banner was released, and it's already several days after that. I'm not sure if they have updated the calculation, but because I've been doing the run in the run in Main's Bulletin, it seems that Flutter Page is still better. Okay, in my opinion, with that extra AP plus 1 and all the damage boost, it seems that Flutter Page is still the better unit for Nautica. But yeah, I couldn't be too sure because I didn't do the calculation myself. It's just a reference from what other people have told me about the calculation that has been done on the Chinese side. So if you want to know more, try to get that information from the Chinese side. But what exactly I wanted to highlight here is that Sentinel is actually a very versatile sub DPS, and to some situation, if you put pickles behind her, she can function as a DPS. Probably not hitting as hard as Nautica, definitely not, but it's enough to clear content. I even clear Reverie 450-3 with Sentinel as the DPS, so no problem if you want to use her to clear content. Okay, yeah, and apart from that, the bullets work for almost every DPS. They need crit, they need damage bonus, and you are adding damage on top of their damage. Definitely, you can use her with a lot of other units. So for example, she's very good unit with Flutter Page. Her follow-up attack, 2 times per round, actually really help out with Flutter Page gas stack. And then I also like using her with J. She includes the relative damage in all of J attack, really increase the overall damage of J's team, like J, Bebbles, and Sentinel, Samawise, or Eternity, yeah, they will work, and they actually do pretty good damage as well. So, my overall view, first of all, for global player, GL players, we still have 3 patches to go. There is the AC patch, coming is 2.7, then AC, then 2.8, only we get Sentinel. So, at this point, Sentinel is actually pretty far away. Okay, and the thing is that I'm not sure if 5-man will become a thing because the main bulletin remain as 4-man game. That's because at the moment Nautika's team is actually quite saturated. There's so many units that works with Nautika. You can use Flutterpage and Fatutu. You can use Ezra. You can use Madpark, right? Semmelweis in there. Eternity in there. Okay, so Eternity, Semmelweis, Sentinel, they share similar role. They are the sub DPS or the support unit that makes Nautika hit harder. Medicine Pocket, Ezra, Fatutu, they function as the same role as the sustain for this team. One more character I forgot to mention just now as a support for Nautika again is Flutterpage. So here you have 4. So assuming you are using Nautika, then you are using 1 sustain. So now you only have 2 slots. So it's either Flutterpage, Sentinel, Eternity, or Semmelweis. If you have any of these 2, you will be good. Not a problem. Okay? So if you have any of the 2 units, then if you wanted to skip Sentinel, I think it's fair, it's okay. Alright, but if you are lacking like all this core unit, then yes, Sentinel is definitely a good addition to the team. But I also just want to highlight this is that essentially Flutterpage actually belongs to the follow-up attack team. So we used to have the meta, or at least in the global version, the meta is still the follow-up attack teams. We have several follow-up attack teams, but now we are shifting into the ultimate meta. And then when Nautika, Dynamo, with Impromptu come in, that is the current meta team. Okay, follow-up attack is not performing as well as them anymore. So, but I do think in the AC collab patch, I think they will introduce something related to follow-up attack, but that is just my opinion. We will see about that. And then after that, 37 will get Euphoria. So when 37 comes back with her Euphoria, hopefully it's during the AC collab patch. This is where, follow-up attack will go up another notch. So you would want to remain Flutterpage in those teams. So in that case, you will not be having Flutterpage in Nautika's team, especially if you are doing lockout content. So what do I mean by lockout content? Like reveries. You use a team somewhere, you cannot use it again, the same team in another content. So yeah, so in that case, you would want to dedicate at least to have, either Sentinel, Eternity, or Semmelweis. 2 out of 3 of that. Then you can form your team. But if 5-man is going to be relevant, which again we are still not sure, then you can have all 3 and then they can form the perfect 5-man team. Okay? But anyway, for me, I will be pulling for Sentinel, even if, now I pull for everyone. But even if before, when I'm selective with my pool as almost free-to-play player, because I do buy the battle pass, I don't buy like clear drops and everything. I do buy the premium pass, and also the battle pass, the jute box, and the roaring lion. So I purchased those 2. Yeah, if I'm still doing that, I will still pull for Sentinel because I want to use her with Jay, right? Yeah, so basically that's all for this video, and I hope this gives you some insight on whether later on you want to pull for Sentinel. But again, please be informed that I will do another video 1 week before Sentinel's kit actually drop in the global version, which is probably like 3 months away or something. Yeah, so my view might change, especially depending on the characters that will be coming up in the Chinese version, as well as the AC collab. Alright, so thank you very much for watching and have a good day.